Okay, so I've got a bigger brush, an A5 piece of paper. I've marked the horizon and I'm going to wet the paper.
Oh, I've wet mine.
And I'm also going to mute everybody. Okay, right, wetting paper. All the way down, go over the pencil line. A sheen and no puddles. I'm just going over it a few times with the brush so that it soaks in and it gets evenly distributed, particularly if you've got very hot and humid weather and you're in Australia and your paper's going to dry quickly. So that's that. And I'm going to go into this mix that I made. My brush is not soaking wet, it's just damp. If you look on this one, I've got light here. So I want to avoid putting any paint at all, just off center to the right. So that's that. I'm going to put a little bit in that corner and a little bit in this corner here. Just like that. Sound like a... And then bring it down into the C area because that helps to bring the two parts together. So I have definitely got, I'll just darken it up a bit now. So I've got a bit of light here. I've got light in the middle. I've got light in the C there and light in the C there. And this is dark in the C here. And dark here. Just sort of feather it in a bit to make it look like clouds coming in. And clean brush. So with the smaller brush, I'm just going into my yellow ochre or raw sienna, whichever you're using. And I'm just going to put a little bit of it there and a little bit in that white space there. It's only very faint paint at the moment. We're not doing anything that comes out. You will do that in a few minutes. So when we've done that and we've quite happy-ish, I'm drying the paintbrush I put it on with tissue. I'm just going to, it's almost dry, and I'm just gently feathering that pigment in so that it doesn't, the clouds don't stop all of a sudden. It's just gently touching it. And then I'm going to dry it. So I'm going to turn. So we're going to do the second layer. I'm going to gently lay some water on that side there, on the left, and then over on the right corner. Make sure I leave the light that I put on there in the first place. Right, with some raw sienna. I'm just going to put some raw sienna coming down that down that side there. And then some cobalt blue and light red mix. A little bit darker maybe. So just add a bit more blue to what you've already got mixed, or mix some more up. I didn't mix enough. And just make up a sky, really. With a clean brush, dried, and feather that in so we don't get hard edges. I'm wiping my brush after it every few strokes. See, I've got a lovely hard edge there, which I don't want, so I'm just using my brush just to jiggle it about a bit. And it's drying. So mostly I'm starting on the light bit and then pulling it into the colour. But sometimes just change that bit there. I'm actually poking it quite hard because it's dried. And I think that will probably do. I don't like that at all. And I will sort that out. So we're going to dry that again. So we've got it completely dry. So I'm going to stop the recording. Okay, so going to start on the sea. A fairly dry brush, clean, dry, and going into the colour that you made, the cobalt blue and light red. This is wet on, no, dry on, it's dry brushing. I can see where my line is, and I want this side to be darker than that side. So I'm just gently brushing, and it's leaving bits. It's not touching all the paper, so you get that sparkly feel to the sea. I'm just brushing it across. My brush is on the side. I try not to go over that light bit too much. And I need it level. That's it, that's level. It's not quite. So I need some more paint. Again, very dry, dryish brush, and just brush on the side. And then I'm stopping about there because I'm going to put some land in, and I also want to preserve that shining white through the sea colour. So I clean the brush, I dry it on the tissue, then go into this paint and just brush on the side. it shouldn't be, because there's not much water, it should just leave little marks where it actually is, the paper has picked it up. This way, the yellow ochre reflection of the cloud comes through the sea here, and the white comes through there. And now I'm going to, with the same mix of cobalt blue and light red, or whatever you're using, just a little bit darker than the sky, not a lot. I'm just going to put in a little bit of a landmass. It's not very tall. It's just there, just to frame the sea. So I start around there, wiggle it up and down, and then paint it in. And that brush is no good. Right at this moment, I'm going to use the rigger so it doesn't go into the sea. A little landmass there. You could be adventurous and you could put a castle on the landmass, or you could put a lighthouse. I just want it a little bit darker, just at the right side of it. So I'm just mixing up a little bit darker of the cobalt blue. And I want to be able to put a little bit of light in it. See, there's light here. So that could come down and just hit onto that headland there. So I'm just, with clean water, I'm just lifting a little bit out there, just to say this is where the light is. And I'm just going to just gently blot it with a tissue. So I've got a little bit of lightness just on that bit of that headland there.
Oh,
I've just put in a little bit of turquoise using the dry brush method around where the light is hitting the sea. And now I'm going to do the landmass over in this corner here, which is going to be dark. So mixing up your cobalt blue and your light red. And if you want it dark, and you've got some Payne's grey out, put some Payne's grey in it as well. Then it will give you some really dark values. So I'm going to try and show you the colour. It's a dark grey, really. So I've got cobalt blue, Payne's grey, and some light red. I'm just going to put some more Payne's grey in to make it go to the blue side, but it is a grey. Now I'm going to dry brush on this landmass and make it look a bit like rocks, so you're looking over at rocks. And get a bit of the plain light red and just dot it in, because then that will give it a, as it diffuses, it will make it look more rocky and not just black. And with a clean, just damp brush, think where your light is and just lift out a couple of bits on the tops of those rocks. Don't know whether you can see that. I've just lifted it out with a damp brush. and it just varies the tone. I'll do it for that one as well. Just varies the tone slightly. Moving on to these, I suppose it's a shoreline with some cranes and such like. The dark blue that we've just used for the landmass, dilute it down and just draw a couple of a vertical line, another vertical line. It's only light, she says, immediately putting a dark one in with the tissue, suck it out. So some boxes and some straight lines make you think you've got docks and make sure that they come off. It's just a skyline. I mean, you could even put in a well-known skyline if you wanted. Nothing's to say that New York Hudson River shoreline can't be on this sky. I'm going to I think that's it for the moment. Now we need to let that dry. I've just loaded my brush with some Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. I'm going to, where it's really dark, I'm going to put in some sails. Now just remember that the boats aren't that big because we're looking at them from quite a way away. So it's a triangle, basically. But I put it where the sea and the sky is darkest. I'm going to go, there's one further back. So it's a triangle where it's there. And have your boats pointing the same way. If you're going to bend them over, bend more over the same way because the wind that's blowing that one is blowing that one. And then I'm going to have a little one right at the back, and only the top of his sail is over the horizon. So he stops at the horizon there. And that's all you need for boats. I'm going to put a little bit of white. I need it to be a little bit looser than that. Along the top of the sea there, and at the between the sea and the headland there. You can do it in, it doesn't have to be a straight line, it can be a little bit jagged so that it looks like waves against it. And again, there. And I'm going to put some white line here. And a white line there. Just in the dark bit, because then that looks like waves. And over on this side as well, because we've neglected this side a bit. Just wiggling it in. I think it's quite difficult to see in this light what I've done. I'm just letting my hand, I'm resting my arm on my wrist and letting my hand wiggle, and it leaves that white behind. I'm just going to make that slightly taller. And that one slightly taller. You can put a little bit of a white mark at the bottom if you want to show that it's a boat there. Then using the white again, in the sky it's darkest, just going to do a seagull and another one, and then another one up there. Just put them where it's darkest if you're using white. Yeah. Right, that's, there comes the fiddling bit. Obviously you can fiddle and faff and make it beautiful or totally ruin it. So I'm putting my brush down. Stop